You are listening to PR Radio Station of America.
The Dallas IC field office began the day as usual, with detainees being brought in for processing. Transport vans rolled through the secure Sally Port. Officers prepared paperwork, and the hum of routine echoed in the building. Then, without warning, gunfire broke the silence. At 6:40 a.m., bullets pierced the air, shattering glass and striking vehicles. Alarms sounded, officers shouted commands, and confusion spread instantly. The sound of gunfire reverberated not only inside the facility, but across the nearby highway and apartment blocks. Inside the vehicles, detainees ducked instinctively, but 3 of them were struck. One would not survive the morning, while 2 others slumped bleeding and were rushed by ambulance to the nearest trauma center. The ICE staff scrambled, some trying to shield detainees, others radioing for backup. Local residents, hearing the shots, feared a larger coordinated attack. Parents rushed children away from bus stops, cars stalled on the interstate nearby, and shopkeepers locked their doors. For many in Dallas, it was a reminder of how violence can erupt suddenly in public spaces. By the time the shooting ended, the toll was clear: 1 dead, 2 critically injured, dozens traumatized. The ICE building itself bore scars, bullet holes in windows and doors, marking a place that should have been secure but had become a crime scene. Investigators quickly pieced together what happened. The shooter had not stormed the facility. Instead, he had taken an elevated position nearby, aiming down into the Sally Port with precision. Authorities identified him as Joshua John. His actions seemed deliberate, not random. He fired repeatedly at the vehicles, knowing that detainees were inside, creating maximum fear with minimum exposure. When officers reached his position, they found John dead from a self-inflicted wound. Near his body lay a bullet inscribed with messages hostile to IC, which the FBI later confirmed carried anti-IC rhetoric. This evidence suggested an ideological motive, not a personal grievance. Federal investigators called it targeted violence, an attack aimed at the agency itself. Yet the randomness of the shooting pattern meant anyone: commuters on the interstate, residents in nearby apartments, or workers in surrounding offices, could have been hurt. The revelation of John's motives intensified the shock. Dallas had seen crime before, but the idea of a sniper targeting a federal facility for symbolic reasons shook both law enforcement and the community. For acting IC Director Todd Lyons, the attack struck a personal chord. He had once worked in that very office, occupying rooms that now bore fresh bullet marks. At a press briefing, Lyons admitted it felt like his worst nightmare. He explained that his greatest fear has always been the safety of both ICE officers and the detainees in their care. He expressed sorrow for the victim who died, saying the agency's mission includes protecting those in custody. "We are charged with their protection, their custody," he said. "Nothing like this should happen." Lyons also praised the bravery of officers who pulled detainees from vans while bullets still rained down. He highlighted their instinct to risk their own lives for others, a detail meant to restore some dignity amid tragedy. Even as he spoke firmly about security, his tone reflected the weight of leadership during crisis. He reminded agents nationwide that his #1 mission is making sure they go home to their families every night. Lyons insisted this was not an isolated event. He described a steady rise in threats against IC officers and facilities across the country, citing attacks, protests, and harassment that had escalated in recent years. What alarmed him most was that violence had now reached inside an IC facility. Law enforcement expects danger during field operations, but few had considered that sniper fire could strike a secure compound in a major American city. He noted the timing of the attack, during morning rush hour, near an interstate, could have turned the shooting into a mass casualty event. Ordinary commuters, residents, or children heading to school could easily have been victims. The FBI echoed his concerns, classifying the event as targeted violence with potential for collateral damage. They warned that such acts of ideological hostility could inspire copycats. The incident renewed questions about how to secure federal facilities and whether political anger toward immigration enforcement had crossed into dangerous territory. In the aftermath, grief and anger mingled. One family now faced the loss of a loved one who had died in custody. 2 others were in critical care, their futures uncertain. ICE leadership pledged to conduct internal reviews, while local officials promised to examine security vulnerabilities. Lawmakers quickly seized on the tragedy, some calling for stronger protection of federal workers, others pointing to broader debates over immigration enforcement. Lyons assured his staff that he stood with them fully, emphasizing their mission was difficult enough without fearing sniper fire at their own workplace. He promised new safety protocols to restore morale. Civil rights advocates, however, urged caution. They acknowledged the tragedy but warned against using it to justify harsher policies against communities critical of ICE. They argued the focus should be on security, not on silencing dissent. For Dallas, the scars of that morning remain. The holes in glass and metal are reminders of a moment when federal authority itself became a target. For families and officers alike, the path forward now demands healing, accountability, and vigilance.